My name is Margaret Williams, and I'm 62 years old. 3 years ago, I buried my husband of 35 years. Robert was my everything. We built a life together, raised our son Daniel, and dreamed of growing old surrounded by grandchildren. But cancer took him from me in 6 brutal months. And suddenly, I was alone in a house that felt too big, too quiet, too full of memories. After Robert died, I made what I thought were smart decisions. I sold our large family home and bought a modest 2-bedroom house in a quiet neighborhood. The money from the sale went into investments and savings, enough to live comfortably for the rest of my life, enough to leave something substantial for Daniel when my time came. Daniel is my only child. I poured everything into raising him after his father died. Every sacrifice, every sleepless night, every dollar I had went toward making sure he had a good life. He married Jessica 4 years ago, a woman with perfect makeup, designer clothes, and a smile that never quite reached her eyes. I tried to love her for Daniel's sake, but something about Jessica always felt wrong. Cold, calculating. Still, I kept my distance. I didn't want to be that mother-in-law who interfered. I visited once a month, called every week, and pretended not to notice how Jessica always found reasons to cut our visits short. Everything changed last Tuesday morning. I was having coffee in my kitchen when an idea struck me. A test. A small experiment to see how my son and daughter-in-law truly felt about me. I picked up my phone and called Daniel. "Mom, what's up?" His voice sounded distracted. "Honey, I need to tell you something. My friend Carol in Phoenix, she's not doing well. She just had surgery and has no family nearby. I'm thinking of flying out tomorrow to help her for a week or two." There was a pause. Then Jessica's voice in the background. "Is that your mom? Tell her that's so sweet of her." Daniel cleared his throat. "Yeah, Mom, that sounds really nice of you. Carol will appreciate it." "You don't mind me being gone?" I asked, something in my chest tightening. "Of course not. You should definitely go. Actually, you know what? You should stay longer if Carol needs you. 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever. You deserve a break." Jessica's voice again, clearer now, like she'd moved closer to the phone. "Yes, Margaret, please take all the time you need. Don't worry about rushing back. We'll check on your house while you're gone." The way she said it made my skin crawl. Too eager, too insistent. "That's very kind of you both," I said slowly. "I'll book a flight for tomorrow then." "Great, Mom. Have a safe trip. Love you." He hung up before I could respond. I sat there staring at my phone, my coffee growing cold. Something was very wrong. A loving son would have asked more questions. Offered to drive me to the airport. Seemed even slightly concerned about his mother traveling alone. Instead, he'd practically pushed me out the door. That's when I decided. I wasn't going anywhere. But they didn't need to know that. I called my dear friend Ruth, who owned a small bed and breakfast on the other side of town. "Ruth, I need a favor. Can I stay with you for a few days? I'll explain everything when I get there." The next morning, I packed a suitcase, made sure to post on social media about my trip to Phoenix, and drove to Ruth's place. She welcomed me with warm hugs and hot tea, listening intently as I explained my suspicions. "Oh, Margaret," she said, shaking her head, "I hope you're wrong, but trust your instincts." For 2 days, I waited. I didn't call Daniel. I didn't text. I wanted to see if he would check on me, ask if I'd arrived safely, show any sign of concern for his mother traveling alone. Nothing. Complete silence. On the 3rd day, I decided it was time to go home. Ruth drove me, parking a block away from my house at my request. As we turned onto my street, my heart stopped. There was a "for sale" sign planted in my front yard. "What in God's name?" Ruth gasped. But it got worse. Much worse. There was a moving truck in my driveway. 2 men were carrying my sofa, my beautiful cream-colored sofa that Robert and I had picked out together, loading it into the truck. Another man in a suit was standing on my porch with a clipboard, talking to a young couple who were pointing at my house and nodding enthusiastically. I felt like I couldn't breathe. Ruth grabbed my hand. "Margaret, we need to call the police right now." "No," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "Not yet. I want to see exactly what they're doing." I got out of the car and walked toward my house. The man in the suit noticed me first. He smiled, professional and polite. "Can I help you?" "This is my house," I said. "What's going on here?" His smile faltered. "Your house?" "I'm sorry, ma'am, but I'm the listing agent for this property. The owners, Daniel and Jessica Williams, hired me to sell it." "The owners?" My voice rose. "I am Margaret Williams. I own this house. Daniel is my son." The agent's face went pale. He fumbled with his clipboard. "There must be some mistake. I have all the paperwork here. Power of attorney, signed by you, giving Daniel full authority over the property. I never signed any power of attorney, I said, my hands shaking now with rage. Let me see those documents. He hesitated, then handed me the papers. There it was. My signature. Or rather, a very good forgery of my signature. The date was from 2 months ago. The document gave Daniel complete legal authority over all my assets, property, and medical decisions. It stated that I was suffering from significant cognitive decline and was no longer capable of managing my own affairs. This is fraud, I whispered. This is complete fraud. The young couple looked uncomfortable and backed away. The agent pulled out his phone. Ma'am, I'm going to need to call Daniel Williams and verify this situation. You do that, I said. And I'm calling my attorney. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely dial. Martin Patterson had been Robert's attorney and friend for over 20 years. He answered on the second ring. Margaret? I was just about to call you. You missed our lunch yesterday. Are you all right? Martin, I need you at my house immediately. Someone is trying to steal my property. My own son. There was a sharp intake of breath. Don't move. Don't sign anything. Don't talk to anyone else. I'm 15 minutes away. Those 15 minutes felt like hours. The moving men had stopped working, confused by the confrontation. The agent was on his phone, speaking in low, urgent tones. Ruth stood beside me, her arm around my shoulders. Then I saw Daniel's car pull up. He got out, Jessica right behind him, and the look on his face when he saw me standing there was not surprise. It was pure fury. Mom, he said, walking toward me quickly. What are you doing here? You're supposed to be in Phoenix. I never went to Phoenix, Daniel. There is no sick friend. I wanted to see what would happen if I left. And now I know exactly what you were planning. Jessica stepped forward, her face a mask of false concern. Margaret, you're clearly confused. Let's go inside and talk about this calmly. Don't you dare, I said, my voice cutting through the air like a knife. Don't you dare pretend to care about me. You forged my signature. You're selling my house. You're trying to steal everything I have. Daniel's jaw clenched. You're not thinking clearly, Mom. That's exactly why we had to take these steps. You're not capable of managing your own affairs anymore. We're doing this for your own good. For my own good? I laughed, a bitter sound. And where exactly were you planning to put me while you sold my house and took my money? Jessica and Daniel exchanged a glance. That's when I knew. They had a plan for me too. And it wasn't retirement and comfort. We found a wonderful care facility, Jessica said sweetly. A place where you'd be looked after, where trained professionals could help you with your memory issues. I don't have memory issues, I shouted. I'm 62 years old, I'm in perfect health, and I'm sharper than both of you combined. This isn't about my well-being. This is about my money. Martin's car pulled up at that moment, and I have never been so grateful to see anyone in my life. He stepped out, briefcase in hand, his expression grim. Daniel Williams, he said, walking straight to my son. I'm Martin Patterson, Mrs. Williams' attorney. I need to see all documents pertaining to this property sale immediately. Daniel's confidence wavered. This is a family matter. This is a legal matter, Martin corrected. And unless you want to add obstruction to the charges of fraud and forgery you're already facing, I suggest you cooperate. Over the next hour, the truth came pouring out. Martin examined every document. The power of attorney was indeed forged. The medical evaluation declaring me mentally incompetent had been signed by a Dr. Richard Chen, who turned out to be Jessica's uncle and had never actually examined me. The sale of the house was scheduled to close in 1 week, with all proceeds going directly to an account in Daniel and Jessica's names. But Martin found something else, something that made my blood run cold. Margaret, he said quietly, pulling me aside. They also filed paperwork to have you committed to a long-term care facility, the Meadowbrook Center. Do you know what that place is? I shook my head. It's not a retirement home. It's a state-funded psychiatric facility, the kind of place where people go and rarely come out, the kind of place where someone could be kept indefinitely if the right paperwork is filed. I felt dizzy. They weren't just trying to steal from me. They were trying to erase me, to lock me away and throw away the key. How long have they been planning this? I whispered. Martin's face was grave. Based on these documents, at least 6 months. This wasn't a spontaneous decision, Margaret. This was carefully orchestrated. I turned to look at Daniel and Jessica. They were standing by their car now, talking in harsh whispers. Jessica's perfect composure was cracking. Daniel kept running his hands through his hair, a gesture I recognized from his childhood when he was in trouble. My son, my baby boy. The child I had rocked to sleep, nursed through illnesses, celebrated every achievement. He had looked me in the eyes for months, smiled at me, hugged me, all while planning to destroy my life. Martin stepped forward, addressing the real estate agent and the movers. This sale is invalid. All work stops immediately. Anyone who removes another item from this property will be charged with theft. The police are on their way. And they were. 2 patrol cars pulled up, lights flashing. Martin had called them from his car. The next few hours were a blur of statements, accusations, and legal jargon. The officers took copies of all the documents. They questioned Daniel and Jessica separately. I watched as my son's story fell apart, as he tried to claim he was acting in my best interests, that I had seemed confused lately, that he was just trying to protect me. Jessica tried a different approach. Tears. Lots of tears. We were just so worried about her living alone. We thought we were helping. We never meant for any of this to happen. But the forged signature told a different story. The fake medical evaluation told a different story. The timeline of the house sale, scheduled to happen while I was supposedly in Phoenix, told a different story. One of the officers, a woman named Detective Sarah Chen, no relation to Jessica's uncle, pulled me aside. "Mrs. Williams, I need to ask you something. Has your daughter-in-law ever mentioned her mother?" "No," I said, surprised by the question. "She said her parents died when she was young. She was raised by her uncle, Dr. Chen." Detective Chen's expression darkened. "That's not quite true. Her mother is alive, or at least she was 2 years ago. She was placed in a psychiatric facility by Dr. Chen and Jessica, declared mentally incompetent, and all her assets were transferred to them. She died 6 months later under suspicious circumstances. The case was investigated, but nothing could be proven." My legs nearly gave out. "Are you saying Jessica has done this before? To her own mother?" "I'm saying there's a pattern. And now we have enough evidence to reopen that case." I looked at Jessica with new eyes. This wasn't just greed. This was something darker, something evil. As the police prepared to take statements downtown, Daniel finally approached me. His face was pale, his eyes red. "Mom, I swear I didn't know about her mother. I didn't know about any of that. Jessica told me you were getting forgetful, that you needed help. She said this was the kindest way to make sure you were taken care of. And you believed her?" My voice was cold. "You believed her over me? Your own mother?" "She's my wife," he said weakly. "And I'm your mother," I shouted, all the pain and betrayal finally erupting. "I carried you for 9 months. I raised you alone after your father died. I gave you everything I had, everything I was, and you were going to lock me away in an asylum and steal my home? For what? Money? How much was my life worth to you, Daniel?" He opened his mouth, but no words came out. What could he possibly say? "I loved you more than my own life," I continued, tears streaming down my face now. "And you tried to bury me alive. You tried to erase me from existence." "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm so sorry. Sorry doesn't give me back the months I spent trusting you. Sorry doesn't erase the fact that you looked me in the eyes every week and lied. Sorry doesn't change the fact that you chose her over me." Detective Chen approached. "Mrs. Williams, we need to take your son and daughter-in-law to the station for formal questioning. Given the evidence, we'll likely be filing charges for fraud, forgery, attempted theft, and conspiracy to commit unlawful imprisonment." I nodded, unable to speak anymore. As they led Daniel and Jessica away, Jessica turned back to look at me. The mask was completely gone now. Her face was twisted with rage and hatred. "You stupid old woman," she hissed. "You should have just gone on your little trip. You should have just made this easy." "Get her out of my sight," I said to Detective Chen. After they were gone, after the police had left and Martin had secured my house, after the for sale sign had been removed and the moving truck had returned all my furniture, Ruth and I sat in my living room in stunned silence. "I can't believe it," Ruth said finally. "Your own son. I gave him life," I whispered, "and he tried to take mine." Martin sat down across from us, his expression serious. "Margaret, I need you to understand what's coming next. There will be a trial. Daniel and Jessica will likely try to claim you were actually incompetent, that they had legitimate concerns. You'll need to be evaluated by independent doctors. Your entire life will be examined." "I'm ready," I said, and I was surprised to find that I meant it. "I'm not hiding anymore. I'm not pretending everything is fine. They tried to destroy me, and I'm going to make sure the whole world knows it." And that's exactly what I did. The trial began 3 months later. The prosecution's case was overwhelming. The forged power of attorney, the fake medical evaluation, the house sale scheduled to happen while I was supposedly out of town, and most damning of all, the evidence Detective Chen uncovered about Jessica's mother. Mrs. Eleanor Thornton had been a wealthy widow when Jessica and Dr. Chen had her declared incompetent 7 years ago. She'd been placed in a psychiatric facility, heavily medicated, and died within 6 months. Her entire estate had gone to Jessica and her uncle. When her medical records were finally subpoenaed, they showed she'd been given massive doses of sedatives, far beyond what was medically necessary. The official cause of death was heart failure, but the circumstances were suspicious enough that the case was reopened. Jessica sat in the courtroom with the same cold expression she'd always had. But Daniel looked destroyed, broken. He'd lost weight, his eyes were hollow, and he couldn't look at me. Good. Let him suffer. Let him feel a fraction of what he tried to do to me. The moment that broke the case wide open came when the prosecution called Dr. Richard Chen to the stand. Under oath, under threat of perjury charges, he admitted everything. Jessica had approached him years ago with the plan for her mother. He'd falsified medical records, signed documents declaring Eleanor Thornton incompetent, and received a substantial cut of the inheritance. When Jessica wanted to do the same to me, he'd agreed immediately. He'd signed the evaluation without ever meeting me. He'd backdated documents. He'd created an entire medical history of cognitive decline that never happened. "Why did you do it?" the prosecutor asked. Dr. Chen looked at Jessica. "Because she promised me half of everything, and I was in debt. Bad investments, gambling. I needed the money." Jessica's attorney jumped up, objecting, trying to stop the testimony, but it was too late. The jury had heard everything. When it was my turn to testify, I walked to the stand with my head high. I looked directly at Daniel as I was sworn in. The prosecutor's questions were straightforward. Was I experiencing memory issues? No. Had I ever signed a power of attorney? No. Had I ever discussed wanting to move to a care facility? No. Did I know about the plan to sell my house? Not until I came home and found strangers preparing to take everything I owned. Then came the defense's turn. Jessica's attorney tried to paint me as a confused elderly woman who didn't understand what was happening. He asked about my age, my health, my daily activities. He tried to suggest that perhaps I had given permission and simply forgot. I looked him directly in the eyes. I am 62 years old. I balance my own checkbook. I manage my own investments. I cook my own meals, clean my own house, and drive my own car. I have a book club, I volunteer at the library, and I take a dance class twice a week. The only thing I'm confused about is how my own son could look at me with love in his eyes while planning to lock me away and steal everything I have. The courtroom was silent. "Do you have anything you'd like to say to your son?" the attorney asked, clearly hoping to make me look vindictive. I turned to Daniel. He was crying silently, his shoulders shaking. "I gave you life," I said, my voice steady. "I sacrificed everything for you. After your father died, I worked 3 jobs to keep you in the same school, the same house, so your life wouldn't be disrupted. I went without so you could have. I loved you with every fiber of my being. And you tried to erase me from existence. You tried to lock me away where I would die alone and forgotten, all for money. So no, I don't have anything to say to you. You're not my son anymore. The boy I raised died the day he signed those papers." Daniel let out a sob that echoed through the courtroom. Jessica's face remained stone. The jury deliberated for less than 2 hours. Guilty on all counts. Jessica showed no emotion when the verdict was read, but Daniel collapsed. His attorney had to hold him up. Sentencing came 2 weeks later. Jessica received 15 years for fraud, conspiracy, attempted theft, and her role in her mother's death. Dr. Chen received 12 years and lost his medical license permanently. And Daniel, my son, my baby, he received 8 years. His attorney begged for leniency, argued that he'd been manipulated by Jessica, that he'd believed he was helping me, that he'd shown remorse. But the judge wasn't moved. "Mr. Williams," she said, looking down at him from the bench, "you conspired to defraud and imprison your own mother, a woman who raised you alone after your father's death, a woman who sacrificed everything for your well-being. The betrayal of that trust, the cruelty of that plan demands significant consequences. 8 years in state prison." I sat in the gallery and watched them take my son away in handcuffs. I waited to feel something. Satisfaction, vindication, justice. Instead, I just felt empty. Ruth drove me home that day. We didn't talk. What was there to say? That night, alone in my house, I walked through each room. Everything was back in its place. My furniture, my photos, my life, but nothing felt the same. How could it? This house had been hours away from being sold out from under me. My own son had stood in these rooms and planned my destruction. I found myself in Daniel's old bedroom. I hadn't changed it much after he moved out. His sports trophies were still on the shelf. Photos of him at various ages covered the walls. I picked up his senior portrait. He was smiling, confident, ready to take on the world. Where had I gone wrong? What had I done to raise a son who could do this to me? The questions haunted me for weeks. I barely slept. I barely ate. Ruth checked on me daily, worried I was falling into depression. "You have to find a way to move forward," she said gently. "You can't let them take anything more from you." She was right, but I didn't know how. Then one morning, exactly 2 months after the sentencing, my doorbell rang. I opened it to find a woman in her 30s, nicely dressed, holding a folder. "Mrs. Williams? My name is Amanda Fletcher. I'm a social worker with the Elder Protection Agency. May I come in?" My heart sank. If this is about my case, it's already been resolved. "It's not about your case specifically," she said. "It's about preventing what happened to you from happening to others." I let her in. We sat in my living room and she opened her folder. "Mrs. Williams, your case has garnered significant attention. The story of what your son and daughter-in-law attempted has been covered extensively in the media. And since your trial, we've received over 50 calls to our hotline from elderly people who suspect they're being financially exploited by family members." I stared at her. 50 people? 50 people brave enough to call. The real number is likely much higher. Elder financial abuse is one of the fastest-growing crimes in America, and it's often perpetrated by the victim's own children or relatives. People like Jessica Williams prey on trust and family bonds. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. Amanda leaned forward. "Because we want to start a task force, a group dedicated to identifying, preventing, and prosecuting elder financial abuse. And we'd like you to be the face of it, to use your story to help others recognize the warning signs before it's too late." I was stunned. "You want me to tell my story? Publicly?" "Only if you're comfortable. But Mrs. Williams, you survived. You fought back. You won. That gives hope to people who are being victimized right now, people who think they're trapped, who think they have no way out. Your voice could save lives." I thought about Jessica's mother, Eleanor Thornton. She hadn't survived. She died alone in a psychiatric facility, drugged and forgotten. If someone had helped her earlier, if someone had recognized the warning signs, maybe she'd still be alive. What would I need to do? I asked. Over the next few months, my life transformed. I became an advocate. I spoke at community centers, libraries, senior centers. I told my story again and again. The shame, the betrayal, the fear, but also the fight, the refusal to be erased, the determination to seek justice. And people listened. Oh, how they listened. After one presentation, an elderly man approached me with tears in his eyes. "My daughter has been asking me to sign papers," he said, "saying it's just to make things easier when I pass. But something felt wrong. After hearing you speak, I'm going to get my own attorney to review them first." A woman in her 70s told me her son had been slowly draining her bank account, taking money for emergencies that never seemed to end. She'd been too ashamed to tell anyone. Now she was filing a police report. Story after story. Person after person. People who'd been made to feel like they were crazy for suspecting their own family. People who'd been told they were too old to understand financial matters. People who'd been systematically isolated and abused by those who were supposed to love them. I helped them find resources, connect with attorneys, report abuse. And I watched as they reclaimed their power, their dignity, their lives. 6 months into my advocacy work, I received a letter, prison mail, from Daniel. My hands shook as I held it. Ruth was with me. "You don't have to read it," she said. But I did. I needed to know. The letter was pages long. Daniel wrote about his remorse, his shame, his realization of what he'd done. He wrote about how Jessica had manipulated him, slowly poisoning his thoughts about me over years, making him believe I was becoming incompetent, that I needed to be controlled for my own good. He wrote about the exact moment he realized the truth. It was during the trial when the prosecutor showed the timeline of Jessica's plan. Daniel had believed they were helping me, but the timeline proved they'd been planning this since before Jessica's uncle had even pretended to evaluate me. Every step had been calculated. Every lie had been deliberate. "I was a fool," he wrote. "I let her convince me that you were the problem, that you were declining, that we needed to take control. But you were never the problem, Mom. I was. I failed you. I failed Dad. I failed myself. And I will spend the rest of my life trying to understand how I became someone who could do what I did to you." The letter ended with a request. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I need you to know that I understand now. I understand what I took from you, what I tried to take from you. Your safety, your dignity, your freedom, your trust. And I am so sorry. I folded the letter and sat in silence for a long time. Are you going to write back? Ruth asked gently. I don't know, I admitted. Part of me wants to. Part of me wants to tell him that I forgive him, that we can rebuild something. But Ruth, how do you forgive someone who tried to erase you from existence? How do you trust someone who looked you in the eyes and lied while planning your destruction? I don't know, she said honestly. I don't think anyone could answer that question but you, and I don't think you need to have the answer right now. She was right. So I put the letter in a drawer and continued my work. A year after the trial, the Elder Protection Task Force had helped over 300 people escape financial abuse situations. We'd secured dozens of prosecutions. We'd recovered millions of dollars in stolen assets. We'd saved lives. I was invited to speak at a national conference on elder rights. Standing at the podium, looking out at hundreds of faces, I told my story one more time. My son tried to steal my house, my money, and my freedom, I said. He tried to lock me away where I would be forgotten. And he almost succeeded. If I hadn't trusted my instincts, if I hadn't had a good attorney, if I hadn't fought back, I would be in a psychiatric facility right now, medicated into oblivion, waiting to die. I paused, letting that sink in. But I'm not. I'm here. I'm standing. I'm fighting. And I'm telling you that if you suspect you're being exploited, if something feels wrong, if family members are suddenly very interested in your finances or your property, trust that instinct. Get help. Call an attorney. Call the Elder Protection Hotline. Don't let shame or fear or misplaced family loyalty silence you. The audience rose in a standing ovation. But it wasn't for me. It was for every person who'd ever been made to feel like they didn't matter. Every elderly person who'd been discarded by their families. Every victim who'd found the courage to speak up. After the conference, I finally sat down and wrote a response to Daniel's letter. Daniel, I wrote, I received your letter. I've read it many times. I believe you're sorry. I believe you understand what you did was wrong. But I need you to understand something too. Sorry doesn't heal what was broken. Sorry doesn't give me back the innocence of believing my son loved me unconditionally. Sorry doesn't erase the nights I lay awake wondering if I'd somehow failed as a mother, if I'd raised you wrong, if this was somehow my fault. You were my whole world. After your father died, you were my reason for everything. And you tried to lock me away like I was trash to be disposed of. That kind of betrayal doesn't heal with an apology. But I want you to know something. The pain you caused me led me to help hundreds of other people who were suffering in silence. I turned my trauma into purpose. I turned my anger into action. I took the worst thing that ever happened to me and used it to make sure it doesn't happen to others. So thank you in a twisted way for showing me exactly how strong I am. Thank you for proving that I don't need you to survive. Thank you for teaching me that family is not always blood, but rather the people who show up for you, who fight for you, who love you without conditions. I don't know if I'll ever forgive you, but I'm learning to forgive myself for the guilt I felt, for the questions I asked about where I went wrong. I did nothing wrong. I loved you completely. You were the one who failed. I hope you find peace with what you've done. I hope you become a better person, but I won't be there to see it. This is goodbye, Daniel. Not with anger anymore, but with acceptance. You chose your path. Now I'm choosing mine. I sealed the letter and mailed it. And with it, I mailed away the last piece of hope that maybe, somehow, we could have repaired what was broken. 2 years have passed since the trial. Jessica remains in prison, still showing no remorse. Dr. Chen lost everything, his career, his reputation, his freedom. And Daniel, my son, continues to serve his sentence. I heard through mutual acquaintances that he and Jessica divorced while in prison. Apparently, he finally saw her for what she truly was, a predator who targeted vulnerable people and the ones who loved them. As for me, I'm no longer the quiet, grieving widow who lived alone in a modest house. I'm the director of the National Elder Protection Initiative. I travel the country speaking about financial abuse. I've helped pass new laws, making it harder to declare someone mentally incompetent without multiple independent evaluations. I've trained police officers, social workers, and attorneys on recognizing warning signs. My house, the one they tried to sell, is no longer just a place I live. It's become a refuge for elderly people escaping abuse situations. With Ruth's help, I converted part of it into temporary housing for victims who need a safe place to stay, while legal proceedings unfold. Last month, I helped a 78-year-old woman named Dorothy escape her son's financial abuse. He'd been forging her signature on checks, draining her retirement account. She found my website, called the hotline, and within 48 hours, we had her safely away from him with legal protection in place. "How did you know?" she asked me over tea in my kitchen. "How did you know your son was stealing from you?" "I didn't know," I admitted. "I suspected. And I trusted that suspicion enough to test it. That's all it takes sometimes. Trusting yourself even when everyone else is telling you you're wrong." Dorothy nodded, tears in her eyes. "I thought I was being paranoid. I thought maybe I was getting senile, like he said, but I knew I wasn't crazy." "You're not crazy," I told her firmly. "You're a survivor, and you're going to be okay." She stayed with me for 3 weeks while her attorney sorted out her finances and filed charges against her son. When she finally left, headed to live with a cousin in another state, she hugged me tightly. "Thank you for showing me it's possible to fight back," she said. "Thank you for not letting them win." "Thank you for being brave enough to ask for help," I replied. "That's what my life is now. Helping others be brave, showing them they're not alone, proving that even when your own family betrays you, you can survive, you can thrive." People sometimes ask me if I regret testing Daniel and Jessica, if I wish I'd just taken my fake trip and remained oblivious to their plans. The answer is simple. Absolutely not. If I hadn't tested them, if I hadn't trusted my instincts, I would be dead or locked away by now. My money would be gone. My house would be sold. My life would be over. Instead, I'm more alive than I've been in years. I have purpose. I have a chosen family of friends and fellow advocates who love and support me. I have the satisfaction of knowing that the work I do matters, that lives are being saved, that predators are being stopped. And I have the knowledge that I am stronger than I ever imagined possible, that I am not defined by the people who tried to destroy me, but by how I rose from the ashes of that betrayal. My name is Margaret Williams. I'm 64 years old now. My son tried to lock me away and steal my life. Instead, he gave me a reason to fight, a reason to speak up, a reason to make sure what happened to me never happens to anyone else if I can help it. I spent 35 years being someone's wife. I spent 30 years being someone's mother. And now, finally, I'm just Margaret. Strong, independent, unbreakable Margaret. To everyone watching this, listening to this, I want you to remember something. Age does not make you disposable. Trusting your family does not make you foolish. And fighting back when someone tries to harm you, even if that someone is your own child, does not make you cruel. It makes you a survivor. If something feels wrong, trust that feeling. If someone is pressuring you to sign papers, get a second opinion. If family members suddenly seem very interested in your finances, protect yourself. There is no shame in being cautious. There is no shame in seeking help. There is only shame in staying silent while someone abuses you. My son gave me a choice that day, though he didn't know it. I could let them win, let them take everything, let them erase me. Or I could fight. I chose to fight. And I will keep fighting for every person who needs someone in their corner. This is my story. But it doesn't have to be yours. Speak up. Fight back. Survive. And know that somewhere, there's a 64-year-old woman who turned her greatest betrayal into her greatest purpose, cheering you on every step of the way. If this story moved you, if it made you think, if it gave you the courage to trust your instincts, please subscribe to this channel, leave a comment sharing where you're watching from, and share this video with anyone who needs to hear it. Your story matters. Your life matters. And you are stronger than anyone who tries to diminish you. Thank you for listening. And remember, family is not an excuse for abuse. Ever.